Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment when you look at your life and realize you're no longer the one driving it. You're reacting, surviving, drifting through days that feel like copies of each other. But what if today, right now, you decided to take it back, your power, your focus, your control, because the truth is, life doesn't wait for permission. It moves for the one who commands it. And the moment you stop blaming the world and start leading yourself, everything changes. This is the moment you take back control. When you take back control, something remarkable begins to happen. The world doesn't suddenly become easier, but you become stronger, sharper, more intentional. You stop seeing problems as dead ends and start recognizing them as training grounds for your potential. Every obstacle becomes a lesson, every setback a signal, every challenge an invitation to rise higher. Life doesn't hand power to those who wait. It hands it to those who claim it, to those who say, I will decide what this means, I will choose my response, I will lead myself. Taking back control means no longer living on autopilot. Most people go through their days half awake, following routines they never questioned, chasing goals they never chose, living lives designed by others. But when you take back control, you begin to ask powerful questions. Why am I doing this? Is this who I want to become? Does this align with my values, my vision, my purpose? You stop drifting and start directing. You begin to live consciously, deliberately, intentionally. And that single shift, from unconscious existence to conscious creation, changes everything. You begin to realize that your time is your most precious currency. Once spent, it can never be regained, and so you become protective of it. You stop letting unimportant things steal your attention. You stop scrolling endlessly, gossiping mindlessly, or complaining fruitlessly. You start investing your hours where they yield growth, learning, building, improving, connecting, creating. Every moment you spend aligned with your vision compounds like interest, and soon, what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. But control is not about rigidity, it's about direction. It doesn't mean you suppress your emotions or eliminate spontaneity. It means you steer both with wisdom. You allow joy to flow through you without attachment. You acknowledge pain without letting it define you. You can laugh deeply, love fully, cry openly, and still remain centered, because you know who you are and what you're building. Taking back control doesn't strip you of your humanity. It anchors it in purpose. There will be days when everything feels heavy, when progress is slow, when motivation fades, when doubts creep in like fog. On those days, remember this. Control is not about how you feel. It's about what you do despite how you feel. The great achievers of the world weren't born with unwavering confidence. They built it brick by brick through discipline and action. Every time you push forward when it's hard, you strengthen your grip on the wheel of your life. Every moment of resistance is an opportunity to reclaim more of your power. Most people surrender control because they fear failure. They would rather hand the wheel to fate than risk steering in the wrong direction. But failure is not loss, it's instruction. Every misstep teaches you something vital. Every rejection reveals a lesson. Every wrong turn brings clarity. The only true failure is the refusal to take responsibility for where you are. Once you understand that every outcome, good or bad, is a result of your choices, you no longer fear them, you learn from them. That's the essence of control, not perfection, but mastery through awareness. Think of your mind as a powerful engine. It can take you anywhere you choose to go, but if you don't guide it, it will wander aimlessly. Thoughts of doubt, fear, and regret are like sand in the gears, grinding your momentum to a halt. The key is not to eliminate these thoughts, but to redirect them. When fear whispers, "What if you fail?" answer, "What if I succeed?" When doubt says, "You're not ready." Respond, "I'll prepare until I am." Control begins in conversation with yourself, in the dialogue between who you were and who you're becoming. Choose your words carefully. They're the commands your mind obeys. Taking back control also requires clarity. You can't steer a ship without knowing your destination. Too many people want change but have no vision of where they're going. They wish for success but never define what it means. They dream vaguely and therefore drift endlessly. Clarity is power. It gives your actions precision and your decisions direction. Sit down and ask yourself, what does a controlled, purposeful, fulfilled life look like for me? Then build everything, your habits, your environment, your relationships around that vision. When you live with clarity, distractions lose their pull and temptations lose their voice. It's also about consistency. Taking back control is not a dramatic overnight transformation. It's 1,000 small acts of discipline stacked daily. It's choosing the gym over the couch, focus over comfort, creation over consumption. It's reading instead of scrolling, planning instead of procrastinating, acting instead of wishing. Control is built in repetition, in the quiet hours when no one is watching. It's in those unseen choices that your destiny is shaped. Every small act of control compounds into massive change, but don't confuse control with perfectionism. Control is flexible, adaptable, and wise. Perfectionism is rigid, fearful, and paralyzing. The one who takes back control accepts imperfection as part of the process. They don't demand flawless execution. They demand consistent effort. They understand that growth is not linear and that mastery is born of persistence, not perfection. They are not discouraged by slow progress because they know that direction matters more than speed. Taking back control also means managing your environment. You cannot soar if you are constantly surrounded by anchors. Look at who and what you allow into your life. Are your surroundings feeding your growth or draining your drive? Do your conversations spark ideas or spread negativity? Are you surrounded by people who challenge you to rise or by those who comfort you in stagnation? You become the product of your environment, whether by design or default. Take control of it, curate it intentionally, remove what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. Another key to control is mastering your focus. Attention is energy, and whatever you focus on expands. When you dwell on problems, they grow. When you focus on possibilities, they multiply. The modern world thrives on stealing your attention. Notifications, headlines, noise. But you have the power to reclaim it. Focus is the ultimate currency of achievement. Guard it fiercely. Channel it deliberately. Use it to create, not to escape. The more you master your focus, the more control you gain over your destiny. And remember this, control is not about certainty, it's about confidence. You will never have absolute certainty about the future, but you can develop the confidence to navigate it. Confidence comes from evidence, and evidence comes from action. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your confidence grows. Every time you act despite fear, your control strengthens. Confidence is built, not bestowed. You earn it through integrity, by aligning what you say, what you think, and what you do. Life will always test you. There will be seasons of confusion, storms of uncertainty, and moments that shake your belief. But the person who has taken back control does not crumble. They adapt. They bend but do not break. They know that control does not mean avoiding the storm. It means learning to sail through it. You cannot stop the wind, but you can adjust your sails. You cannot predict the tides, but you can steer your course. That is what control truly means, not the illusion of dominance over life, but the wisdom to guide yourself through it with strength and purpose. To take back control, you must also silence the noise of comparison. The moment you measure your journey against someone else's, you hand over your peace. Everyone's timing is different, everyone's mountain unique. Focus on your own path, your own pace, your own progress. The only person you need to be better than is who you were yesterday. When you stop comparing, you regain control of your joy. You stop chasing validation and start cultivating fulfillment. Finally, understand that taking back control is not a single decision. It's a way of life. It's the ongoing process of choosing discipline over distraction, growth over comfort, ownership over blame. It's about leading yourself when no one else does, motivating yourself when no one believes, and continuing forward when no one applauds. The world belongs to those who take command of themselves, because those who control themselves eventually shape everything around them. When you wake tomorrow, remind yourself that the power has always been within you. It was never lost, only neglected. The moment you decide to reclaim it, everything begins to shift, because control is not something the world gives. It's something you decide to own. Every time you choose to take back control, you reclaim a piece of your identity that the world tried to rewrite. You begin to remember who you were before fear, before doubt, before you started believing the limitations others placed on you. Somewhere deep within you is the person who once dreamed without restraint, who believed in the impossible, who refused to settle. That person is still there waiting for you to wake them up. Taking back control is how you awaken your original self, the self that is not defined by circumstance, failure, or opinion, but by vision, courage, and perseverance. The truth is, most people never truly live because they never truly choose. They float between jobs they dislike, relationships that drain them, and routines that numb them, all the while convincing themselves that this is simply how life is. But life doesn't just happen, it responds, it listens, it mirrors the level of control you exert over yourself. If you drift, it drifts with you. If you focus, it sharpens. If you decide, it moves. Life is a reflection of your internal state. When you take back control of your inner world, your outer world begins to align. Control doesn't mean you'll have everything figured out. It means you'll stop waiting for certainty before you begin. You'll act even when the path is unclear because you understand that clarity is born through movement, not contemplation. Waiting for the perfect moment is surrender disguised as patience. The perfect moment is the one you create by acting with purpose. Those who wait to feel ready never do. Those who take control decide they are ready enough to begin, and through that decision, they become stronger, wiser, and more capable with every step. You must also understand that control requires sacrifice. You cannot take command of your life while clinging to everything that once held you back. To move forward, you must release what no longer serves your growth. It might be an unhealthy habit, a toxic relationship, or an old belief that whispers you're not good enough. Whatever it is, let it go. Control is not gained by addition but by subtraction, by removing the noise, the clutter, and the weight that keeps you from moving freely. Every act of letting go gives you room to rise. And when you begin to rise, you will notice resistance. The world often pushes back when you start to change, not because it wishes you harm, but because it is testing your conviction. When you decide to live with purpose, you threaten the comfort of mediocrity, both in yourself and in others. But understand this, every great change invites friction. Growth demands discomfort. The pressure you feel is proof that you are no longer drifting with the current but swimming against it. The one who takes back control does not fear this resistance. They welcome it as evidence of progress. There will be people who misunderstand you. They will question your decisions, criticize your pace, and mock your focus. They may call you selfish for prioritizing your peace or arrogant for believing in your potential. But remember, their opinions are not your compass. If you let their noise steer you, you lose your direction. Taking back control means learning to walk alone when necessary. It means trusting your inner guidance more than the opinions of the crowd. The world has always been changed by individuals who dared to listen to themselves when everyone else doubted them. Control also requires patience. In a world addicted to instant gratification, patience becomes a form of power. Most people quit not because they lack ability, but because they lack endurance. They want quick results for deep work, fast rewards for slow progress. But real control means committing to the process, no matter how long it takes. You must learn to enjoy the grind, the early mornings, the silent hours, the unseen effort, because that is where transformation happens. Every day you persist, you are taking control of your destiny, one disciplined step at a time. You must also master the art of stillness. Control isn't always about constant motion. Sometimes it's about deliberate pause. The mind, when quieted, becomes your greatest ally. When you take time to reflect, to breathe, to think, you gain clarity that rush can never provide. In stillness, you hear the whisper of your intuition, the inner voice that always knows what is right for you. In that silence, decisions become clear, fears lose their volume, and direction emerges. Control is not only the ability to act, but the wisdom to know when to wait. Another truth about taking back control is that you will have to unlearn much of what you've been taught. The world conditions people to conform, to follow, to seek validation. You've been told to fit in, to play it safe, to avoid risk. But the one who takes control understands that conformity is the enemy of authenticity. You cannot live your purpose by living someone else's script. You must rewrite your own. You must question what you've accepted, challenge what you've believed, and choose what aligns with who you truly are. Taking back control is an act of rebellion against a world that profits from your distraction. It's also about self-trust. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your control. You teach your mind that your words hold no weight. But when you keep your word, even in the smallest things, you strengthen your foundation. If you say you'll wake up early, do it. If you say you'll work out, follow through. If you commit to your goals, pursue them relentlessly. The small victories build momentum, and that momentum builds identity. You begin to see yourself as reliable, capable, in control. Self-trust is the silent power behind every successful life, and with control comes peace. Not the absence of struggle, but the presence of certainty within it. When you know you can face whatever comes, when you know you are not at the mercy of external forces, you develop a calm confidence that nothing can shake. You stop chasing control over the uncontrollable and instead focus on mastering your response. You realize that peace is not given, it's chosen. It's the natural result of knowing that you are steering your life, regardless of the storm. Taking back control also means redefining success. The world will tell you success is measured by wealth, fame, or applause. But real success is internal. It's the ability to live in alignment with your values, to wake up each day with purpose, to look in the mirror and respect the person staring back. You could have everything the world admires and still feel empty if you've surrendered your control to the expectations of others. True success is self-governance, the quiet confidence that you are living your truth. The journey of control will test you. There will be days when you feel lost, when progress feels invisible, when the temptation to give up whispers louder than your purpose. But those are the moments when you must hold the line. Taking back control is not about never falling, it's about never staying down. Every time you rise, you reinforce your power. Every time you keep going, you prove to yourself that you are no longer a prisoner of your circumstances. The storms may rage, but you have learned to steer through them with steady hands. Understand that control doesn't isolate you from the world, it connects you to it in a deeper way. When you master yourself, you interact with life from a place of strength, not need. You love without losing yourself, give without depleting yourself, work without enslaving yourself. You begin to see that control is not about closing yourself off. It's about opening yourself to life fully with awareness and intention. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing and start creating. You stop surviving and start living. And when you live like this consciously, purposefully, powerfully, you become a beacon. Others notice your composure, your focus, your peace. They sense the strength that comes from someone who is no longer tossed by circumstance but guided by conviction. You don't need to preach or persuade. Your example speaks louder than words. You become proof that it's possible to take control of one's mind, habits, and destiny, no matter the starting point. Every moment of control ripples outward. It influences your family, your work, your community. One person who takes command of their life can inspire hundreds to do the same. Because control is contagious. When people witness someone steering their own ship through life's storms, it awakens something in them. It reminds them of their own power, their own agency, their own ability to choose, and that is how change spreads, not through speeches or slogans, but through example. Taking back control is not the end of your journey, it's the beginning of your true life. It's the moment you stop existing by default and start living by design. It's the decision that transforms confusion into clarity, weakness into strength, and chaos into order. Every day that you rise with intention, every day that you act with purpose, every day that you reclaim even a small piece of your power, you are creating the life you were meant to live. The more you take back control, the more you realize how little you truly need to live a fulfilled life. The clutter begins to fall away, both physical and mental, and what remains is clarity. You no longer chase distractions disguised as dreams. You no longer confuse movement with progress or noise with achievement. You start valuing peace over approval, progress over perfection, and direction over speed. You begin to live with intention, and that intention becomes the quiet force that propels everything you do. You notice that your energy shifts. You stop waking up drained by obligations that don't align with who you are. You start your days with purpose, not panic. You no longer scroll through life seeking meaning in other people's highlight reels. You create meaning in your own reality. You find satisfaction not in what you consume, but in what you create. You begin to understand that the greatest control you can ever have is over how you think, how you respond, and how you use your limited time on this earth. And then something profound happens. You start to enjoy the process more than the outcome. You no longer obsess over what will happen tomorrow because you're fully engaged in what you can do today. You realize that control is not about predicting the future, but preparing yourself to meet it. You stop trying to manipulate every detail and instead focus on mastering your effort, your focus, and your attitude. The person who has truly taken back control knows that results are the byproduct of who they become, not what they chase. Taking back control transforms the way you view challenges. What once discouraged you now strengthens you. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" You stop viewing failure as final and begin to see it as refinement. Every difficulty becomes an opportunity to fortify your character, to sharpen your resolve, to deepen your understanding. The most powerful individuals are not those who have avoided pain, but those who have learned to harness it. They have learned to turn adversity into fuel. And as you walk this path, you'll realize that control and humility are not opposites. They are allies. To truly command your life, you must also accept that you do not control everything. You cannot dictate the weather, the timing, or the choices of others. But you can always control your preparation, your perspective, and your perseverance. Humility allows you to surrender what you cannot control, so you can focus your power where it truly matters. It keeps you grounded while you grow, patient while you strive, calm while the world around you trembles. When you take back control, you begin to live from a place of strength rather than survival. You no longer wait for motivation. You move from discipline. You no longer seek validation. You draw it from within. You no longer need the world to approve of your journey. You walk your path with quiet conviction. You don't need to announce your comeback, because your consistency will speak for you. Every step you take in self-command builds a foundation that cannot be shaken by circumstance. You start realizing that time is not something you manage, it's something you honor. Each day becomes a gift, not a burden. You stop saying, "I don't have time," and start saying, "It's not my priority." That simple shift of language redefines everything. It reminds you that you are in charge of how you spend your life. You don't owe your time to every demand placed upon you. You owe it to your purpose, to your growth, to your peace. Taking back control is the art of protecting what truly matters, and as you continue on this journey, discipline becomes your greatest ally. The world will tell you that discipline is restriction, that it limits your freedom, but that's only because most people confuse freedom with indulgence. Discipline is the ultimate form of freedom. It's what allows you to say no to what weakens you and yes to what strengthens you. It's what gives you mastery over your habits, your health, your finances, your focus. Without discipline, control slips through your fingers no matter how much you desire it. With it, you become unstoppable. You begin to notice that self-control extends beyond personal success. It spills into every area of your life. You handle conflict with composure instead of anger. You respond with thought instead of impulse. You listen more, speak less, and act with intention. You no longer waste energy trying to be right. You invest it in being effective. You don't chase every argument or react to every provocation because you understand that your peace is worth more than your pride. True control is quiet, steady, and strong. In time, this mindset changes how you interact with others. You stop trying to control people and instead learn to influence them through example. You lead not by demanding obedience, but by embodying excellence. You inspire others through consistency, not command. People trust those who have mastered themselves because self-mastery radiates certainty. It draws respect without needing to request it. When you take back control, you become a source of stability in a chaotic world. A person others can depend on, a calm amidst noise. But this level of control does not come without cost. There will be days of solitude, moments of doubt, and times when it feels as though no one understands your vision. You'll be tempted to revert to comfort, to give in to old habits, to drift back into ease. But every time you resist that temptation, every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you reclaim more of your power. Control is not granted to the comfortable. It is earned by those willing to endure the discomfort of growth. And in that endurance, you will discover that control is not about external dominance. It's about internal order. It's about aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions with a higher purpose. It's about living from principle rather than impulse. The world may still throw chaos your way, but you are no longer swayed by it. You operate from a center that no storm can uproot. That is the kind of control that no one can take from you. When you truly take back control, you become dangerous, not in a destructive way, but in a powerful one. Dangerous to mediocrity, dangerous to complacency, dangerous to every limitation that once held you back. You move with quiet power, not arrogance. You no longer need to prove your worth. Your actions confirm it daily. You no longer need to announce your potential. You live it. You are driven not by competition, but by creation, the desire to become the fullest version of yourself. Each decision you make with awareness compounds into transformation. You begin to see how much of your old life was built on reaction. Reacting to stress, reacting to fear, reacting to others' opinions. But now your life is built on intention. You move with purpose. You speak with clarity. You rest without guilt. You work without resentment. You give without depletion. You live with direction, because every choice stems from conscious control. And then one day, almost without noticing, you realize that what once felt like effort now feels like identity. The discipline that once required willpower now flows naturally. The focus that once demanded strength now feels effortless. You've trained your mind, shaped your habits, and aligned your life. Control no longer feels like something you're holding onto. It's something you are. It's no longer a practice. It's a way of being. You begin to look back at your past not with regret, but with gratitude. Every setback, every mistake, every storm that once broke you has become the foundation upon which your new strength stands. You see that nothing was wasted, because every loss taught you something about power, patience, and purpose. Taking back control didn't erase your struggles. It redefined them. It turned pain into perspective, fear into fuel, chaos into clarity. And from that place of control, you understand the ultimate truth. Life will never hand you perfect conditions, but you don't need them. Because when you control yourself, your mind, your focus, your choices, you can create progress from any position. You don't wait for the world to change. You change how you move through it. You don't need certainty to take action. Your belief becomes your compass. The world may test you, but it will never tame you. Because you have taken back the one thing that determines everything else, yourself.